Have you ever had a woman be totally into you and then slowly lose interest and pull back? So I've coached over 200 men and every single one of them has experienced this. Woman after woman slowly pulling back until they finally discover the 5 brutal mistakes that cause women to actually pull back. And in this video I'll show you exactly what those 5 mistakes are and exactly how to avoid them so you stop accidentally pushing women away and instead make them obsessed with you. And man, I'm 99% confident you have not heard of some of those mistakes before. So what is mistake number 1? So one client I used to coach never really struggled to land regular dates with amazing, beautiful women, but no matter how much money he spent on fancy restaurants or premium bars, they never stuck around. So I decided to do a role play with him, like a typical conversation with him on a date where we talked about hobbies and work, yada yada yada, right? So I pretended to be the girl and gave like the typical responses like, yeah, I work in banking, and yeah, I love yoga and Pilates, blah, 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 right? And his responses revealed why women pull back so quickly, man. So here's what he said. Oh, wow, that's amazing. Do you like it or do you find it boring? What got you into it? And as soon as he said it, man, I knew what was going wrong. He responded like a typical Kevin. So Kevin responses aren't necessarily bad in conversation, but they also aren't great. They're vanilla, nothing that makes you go like, wow, that was fucking cool. And that's the reason why women disappear, man. It's Kevin's inability to make her feel something, specifically in a sexual context. You must trigger her primal fantasies for adventure. And you do that through charismatic playfulness. So how do you become more playful? So here's a framework that I teach my clients every week in our Verbal Game Academy call. And my clients fucking love it. So you take what she says and then you make an absurd observation about it or your own playful interpretation of it, man. So this isn't really about like rehearsing lines, but rather like, let's say, unlocking the playful side that you actually have when you are around your friends, right? But you suppress this around women. So how do you apply this? And don't worry, man, I'm going to give you a specific exercise in just a second, yeah? So in real life, instead of just nodding when she says, oh, I do yoga and I do love Pilates, I would usually ask myself, okay, what playful angle can I spin from what she just said? So for me, this is obviously intuitive by now. So when she says, oh, I love doing yoga or Pilates, I would then just say, oh, so you're one of these flexible troublemakers. Sounds like you are trying to become my favorite yoga teacher. And don't get me wrong, man, I used to think this was cringe, but when you observe great charismatic conversationalists, let's say like Matt Rife, you notice that they all do this. They make interpretations and assumptions, but not to impress, but mostly to just have a fucking fun conversation they enjoy being in. So here's an exercise you can do by yourself that usually my clients do with me in our roleplay calls or the Verbal Game Academy calls I spoke of earlier. So it's called the Association Mind Map. And you might be wondering, okay, why am I holding a fucking mug? Because the roleplay or the exercise fundamentally is you pick an object in any room and then you essentially try to associate as many words as possible with this object. So we have an espresso cup here. What does this remind you of? Coffee, morning, breakfast, sausages, disgusting, avocado, tropical, islands, Hawaii, yada 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 yada. Do you see like where I'm going with this? This is fundamentally, it sparks so much fucking creativity inside of you. Now being playful is obviously magnetic, however there's another mistake, which is mistake number 2 that I'm going to go into right now that totally kills attraction. So and this mistake actually came up with 2 of my clients just a few weeks ago. So I'm going to read their messages from the transcript of the coaching calls, by the way. So when I tell a story, I throw in extra details that never happened because I'm scared the original story is just too boring. That's crazy, isn't it? Like, it's funny to me because once one of my clients was open about this as well, all the other guys started opening up too. So one of the other guys said, and again, I'm going to read that from the coaching calls transcript, by the way. When she asks about my job, I often deflect because I don't think director at an insurance company sounds that exciting. I feel like it's so boring. So they both started filtering themselves around women they found hot. They became inauthentic out of fear of being seen as boring. And here's the big problem, man. Women pick up on this white lie and it erodes the very thing that attraction is built on, which is trust. I can't stress this enough, man. Without trust, no matter how much connection you two have or how hot she finds you, bro, the moment that trust is broken, she will put up a wall. She will hide her feminine essence behind that wall. And then she will pull away, bro, obviously, because if you can't own who you are, like how would she ever feel safe enough to be her true self around you? That doesn't make any sense, does it? Like if you don't accept yourself as a man, no woman ever will. Now obviously, how do you fix this fear of being inauthentic? You start by fixing the root problem, not the fucking symptom, man. Now you might be wondering, okay, what is the fucking difference, man, between a problem and a symptom? Let me show you this using Ronaldo as an example. So imagine Ronaldo has gone on a drought of, let's say, 10 games without a single goal, but in training he scores effortlessly, right? Like bags 20 goals or whatever. So if he thinks like a Kevin, right? He's gonna blame his teammates or his boots for not scoring games, right? He's gonna blame anyone but himself. So he's gonna buy 10 different pairs of boots and then finally scores a goal, but then goes on another drought. So was it really the boots? Now if he's thinking like a Hercules, he flips the question. He's asking himself, okay, how do I show up in training versus on the pitch, let's say on a Champions League game? And then it clicks, man, it's not his skills, because he's scoring regularly at training, right? So it's his nerves, it's his identity, his beliefs, that's the block. And until he works on that, no shiny new pair of fucking boots is gonna save him. So how can you apply this to your situation and identify the root cause? I'm gonna break this down for you. So stage one is awareness. Identify what is causing you to show up differently around women you love compared to when you're with your friends. And I'm gonna tell you a secret, man. For 99% of men, it is shame. The shame of not being good enough. That's your inner voice. So the solution that I teach my clients is to confront that shame that you're trying to hide. And one of my clients experienced a massive breakthrough this week just because I asked him the following question. What's the one thing you are secretly hating about yourself and trying to hide? And then you move to stage two, which is essentially exposure coaching. So you have to expose your shame. So a lot of my clients are ashamed of judgment. So what I have them do is to confront it and take its power away. So how do we do that? By weekly exercises. Like a few weeks ago, I made them do this specific challenge that they, at the beginning, like loved, hated, and loved again. So the specific challenge was ask a stranger to record a video of you doing silly things in public, like push-ups or talking to a traffic light, for instance, yeah? Or say a random line like, hey Gene, I fucking hate you and I love penguins.
So hi Gene, about our challenge. I just wanted to say I love penguins and I hate you for letting me doing this. No, just joking, I love you.
Hey, was auch Gene. Ich liebe Penguins und ich hasse dich dafür. Und wie heißt du schon?
Rosie.
Rosie. Shout out to Rosie.
So today's challenge is to talk to a sign, tell it how you feel. And I'm in front of a grocery store right here. I'm trying to think of what to tell you. You know, sometimes being handicapped, it has its benefits. You get not free, but you get a chance to be up front. But some of the things that I've been thinking about here, maybe some advice. Be grateful for what you have. You know, that's always a plus that you've got to have in this life.
Obviously, it made them really uncomfortable at the beginning, but it also helped them to, let's say, reduce the shame. And the beauty is when you drop your shame, you become also much more attractive because you convey that you're confident about yourself. And that's the reason why bad boys are so attractive to women. They don't give a single fuck about what others think of them. Now, all of this leads me to the next big mistake that a lot of men make, and especially I suffered from after a bad breakup. So let me tell you a story. Like in 2015, I was dating a Canadian girl, right? And she cheated on me with a German mate from business school, which obviously wasn't a very enjoyable experience, to say the least, right? So as a result, I put up a wall around me to protect myself from getting hurt again around other women, right? Which is obviously quite natural. So how did that look like in like relationships, for instance? So I timed my responses, I left women on red to create this illusion of being unattainable. Right. And this really was painful for me, I cut out the very things that made me desirable as a man and that I actually loved doing. Like the little love gestures, like buying her favorite snack, a banana bread, picking up her hairbands, or like leaving a silly note, right? I cut all that. Why? Because I told myself, like, if I give too much, she will take me for granted and she will cheat on me again. The ugly truth though, man, is that wall that I thought was protecting me wasn't doing what it was supposed to do. It wasn't keeping me safe. I was sabotaging myself. So how did I sabotage myself? I denied the relationship the very thing that created the bond. And here's why. Like when you engage in stuff like little love notes, getting her banana bread, right? Your brain releases oxytocin, like the hormone responsible for pair bonding. But every time I held that back, I blocked the entire process in myself and in her. So here's what happened. So for instance, with Marie, an ex-girlfriend of mine, like when she had a family fallout, she blew up my phone, bro. That would have been the perfect chance to show up for her and deepen the bond. But believe it or not, because I had watched too much red pill content that preached like, don't be too available, she'll see you as weak, Guess what I did? I delayed my responses. Guess how that made her feel? Unseen, ignored. Like I wasn't reliable when it actually mattered. And guess what she did? 2-3 weeks later, she broke up with me. Surprise, surprise, huh? So that's when it hit me, man. If I don't face these insecurities, my fear of vulnerability, my trust issues, I'll never be able to build a healthy long-term relationship. So I'm sure you're gonna ask yourself, okay, how did you fix it, Gene? So I actually had a mentor at that time, and he asked me a question that brought down the entire fucking house of cards that my life was sort of built on. He asked me, what are you actually afraid of will happen if you let your guard down? To which I obviously responded, I'm gonna get hurt. And then what he responded with like totally blew me away. And here's what he said. I'm going to read this out. Well, no one can emotionally hurt you unless you consent to it, because you have responsibility, the ability to respond to any given event in your life. That for me was like a life-changing mic drop event, right? From that day on, I decided that I'd rather give 100% in every relationship and risk that I'll be left, rather than hiding behind some imaginary wall that only makes me more miserable and deprives me of the one thing that I want, which is love. Of course, I'm going to stick to the dynamics of attraction and masculine frame, man, but never at the cost of my authentic self. And that brings me to the next biggest lessons I've ever learned, the ones that not a single fucking dating coach out there is talking about. So one of my clients is a straight 10 out of 10, right? He works at a private bank. He's amazing at managing long-term relationships with high net worth individuals. He's got the social skills, right? Like they discuss $1 million deals over golf or lunches in the city, right? So he's extremely confident and charismatic. But here's the interesting thing, man. The moment he is with a woman he develops feelings for, the relationships would follow the exact same path, bro. So at first everything would be like honeymoon, right? They had amazing banter, unbreakable connection, and just lots of fun, if you catch my drift. And because he was so all over her, he started giving her more gifts, more love notes, and he actually stopped seeing friends. And paradoxically, that's when the banter dried up. The arguments over the smallest things started increasing, like the trash, the toothpaste, yada yada yada. And then after a couple of months of frustration, his relationships would actually fizzle out slowly or go out with a big bang. So I personally know that a breakup is just a symptom, not the problem. So I started probing him. I asked him like, okay man, tell me, what did your woman say when they break up? Well, to which he responded, oh, they didn't feel a connection anymore. And then I asked him again, okay, and what did you do differently compared to the beginning of the relationship? And what he shared is exactly what I see in literally every client I coach. The moment he caught feelings, he started suppressing the exact side of him that women were initially attracted to. It wasn't the money, it wasn't the looks, but something way more primal. I call this his inner Hades. That's your dark, unapologetic masculine frame, which is hiding sort of in the shadows of your personality. So think of it like Bruce Wayne and Batman, right? So most guys show persona to the world, right? But they hide their darker primal side, like the one that women actually feel so drawn to, behind the mask. And here's the irony, man. My client, he didn't struggle to show it in the initial stages of dating, but the more he liked a woman, the more he was hiding this dark side of his. Subconsciously, he thought if he showed that side to her, it would scare her off. But in reality, man, that's the very part of him that could have bonded them on a primal level. The part that would have made her never want to leave. Because here's the truth, man, and I saw that with my own eyes when I was a bartender and when I worked in finance. Women's fantasies are way wilder than most men ever would believe. If you don't believe me, fine, just pick up a romance novel and you'll find an infinite amount of stories of submission and domination, but only with men that they trust. So what you're observing here is actually that women crave a duality of masculinity, not just the safe side. So it's how you display that side of yours, especially when your insecurities kick in. And the exercises that I did with my clients were exactly about breaking that pattern. Display your raw, unfiltered side when it feels uncomfortable. So here's how you do that super easily. I call it micro risks in conversation. So saying the bold thought or the intrusive thought, man, that came to your mind instead of censoring it. So for instance, oh, you're such trouble, aren't you? Or you just want me for my body, don't you? Again, those aren't lines, those are an expression of your identity. Super important difference. So once you connect with a woman on a deeper primal level, she will be opening up to you in ways you've never actually ever experienced before, man. Now when you connect on that kind of deeper level, you'll notice that a lot of women will act a bit of crazy sometimes, right? Or they start playing games. But the truth is, they aren't playing games. And that's where most men make mistake number 5 that totally pushes women away. So you must understand that most women aren't actually playing any games, right? And I'm going to give you 2 examples to explain this. So let's use James, one of my clients, right? I changed his name obviously. So James had worked with a female dating coach before, and unfortunately she turned James into a fucking Kevin. So she told him if she pulls back, follow up and pursue, women want to feel chased. I mean, so when James started dating women who sometimes went a bit quiet for days, he chased her hard, man. So he sent her like morning text after morning text and check-in messages like, hey, are you okay? And her responses obviously got colder and colder, and after a few weeks she broke up with him. Now you might think, he should have just played hard to get as well, but actually that's not gonna work, man. And you'll fully understand this after I share my next client story. So my next client, let's call him David, right? He came to me after working with like these hyper game, red pill style kind of coaches, right? So he had been taught to always be hard to get, never show too much interest, and keep her guessing. I mean, so when he dated a woman who loved a bit of a deeper connection, he started becoming more mysterious, right? By responding slower, leaving her on red, or like sending short text messages when she was checking in on him. He thought he would be high value, but actually it made him a total fucking Kevin. And obviously the girl broke up with him because she didn't feel it. So why were both approaches so wrong and led to these unfavorable outcomes? Because my clients didn't read women well. Those 2 women weren't playing games, man. They were simply responding from their attachment style, which is essentially shaped by past experiences, and it sort of runs on autopilot. So and these so-called coaches failed to recognize this and gave bad advice. So you might be wondering, okay, what are those types of attachment styles that are existing? So on the one side of the spectrum, you have what I call Becky, which is avoidant. So she loves connection, but pulls away when things get a little bit too deep because it scares her, right? So because of childhood trauma, bad experiences with men, bad relationships with her parents, right? So whatever the reason may be. So when a woman is a Becky, she will pull away faster if you pursue harder. So you need to give her space to breathe. So you can communicate that by saying like, hey, it seems you need a bit more space, which I'm happy to give you. Text me if you need anything. It's almost like leading a dance, right? You feel her movements, you adjust, you guide, but you never really lose the rhythm of the dance. So then on the other side of the spectrum, you'll find what I call an Emily, who is a bit more anxious, right? She craves reassurance to feel safe. So when David went cold, when she was anxious, it confirmed her fear of losing him, right? And that's why she ended things before like he could, essentially, right? So his icy behavior literally extinguished the fire in her, what I'd like to say. You might be wondering, okay, who the fuck are Becky and Emily? So those aren't random names. They are like essentially profiles from my female archetype model. It's a system that took me 5 years actually to build. But man, it makes reading women as easy as reading a book from, let's say, Tony Robbins. So if you want to see exactly how these profiles work and how to spot them from the moment you meet a woman, I break that down actually in my free training, which is linked in the description below. Or if you want to learn more about the darkest female fantasies, I recommend that you watch the next video that is somewhere displayed here on the screen.